let's try to get this chapter finished up. I know. Okay, so beta cells. Beta cells, they are going to be secreting insulin, which we're all familiar with, and then amylin. Ever heard of that one? Okay. That's because insulin is the one that we associate with diabetes, which of course is very rampant endocrine disorder. Okay? Now, insulin we call the hormone of nutrient abundance, mainly because when we eat, supposedly we're eating enough of our proper materials, okay? But I don't know how many of us could, say we eat a proper diet. But we're eating our materials, and the goal of insulin, take the material that is dealing with our sugars, and especially the glucose, because any other sugars we take in, the body's got to break them down to get them to the level of glucose where we can do something with them. So it's going to target my liver, skeletal muscle. Why? Because if I have taken in too much glucose, where can I store it short term? I can store it short term in my liver and my skeletal muscle in the form of glycogen. And then, if I need to, it can take remaining glucoses or glucoses that we might have in surplus, whatever the case might be, and store it in the adipose tissue. So we're getting our fat deposition. Whenever there is an inaction, note the terminology, okay? An inaction of insulin, it is termed diabetes mellitus. The reason for that, we have another type of diabetes called diabetes insipidus. The term diabetes alone simply means, or is associated with, urine. Mellitus is telling us that it's associated with my insulin levels. Amylin. Amylin is a hormone that will help slow stomach emptying. When we eat a meal, if you guys remember from 26, when we eat a meal, one of the things that happens with a lot of the activities is that the body works to slow down gastric emptying, because gastric emptying controls the release of the materials that we ate, that the stomach digested, into the intestines. Why do I need to control the release of those nutrients into my digestive system, into the intestines?
So you can you have a chance to process them all, so you don't waste a bunch?
You've got a chance for them to make their way through that structure of the intestines, which has those microvilli, those little finger-like projections, because we want to absorb everything possible from the foodstuffs we ate. And if you send it through too fast, it's going to go out the other end still whole. Okay? So you want to control the movement of it through that gastric emptying. So the delta cells of that island, that iceland, you guys remember somatostatin? All right? This is my growth hormone inhibiting hormone. What two hormones did I mention at the beginning of class? We got half, 24/7 just about. Growth hormone, thyroid hormone. Because those two hormones work to make sure that I absorb nutrients the best I can. So if I inhibit the growth hormone after a meal, that is going to also help slow gastric emptying and give my foodstuffs time to make it to the intestines to get broken down and extract all the nutrients possible. So the pancreas, pretty busy. Our gonads, the ovaries and the testes. Once again, dual nature. Exocrine, they're products of the egg and the sperm, are their exocrine portion. The endocrine products are their hormones, mostly the steroids. The gonads are regulated by the hormones of my anterior pituitary. My ovaries, one of the things about them, the ovaries, the job of the ovary, make sure that that egg develops, gets released into the fallopian tube so that it can be fertilized by the sperm and procreate the species. So we're going to find that we're going to have quite a few hormones we got to deal with. We're going to have some more estradiol, the estrogen. We're going to have progesterone. We're going to have inhibin, because the goal, control my egg development. And the testes, they're made up of our seminiferous tubules. The goal, produce the sperm that can go fertilize the egg to procreate the species. We're going to find that the testes, cells that are involved, can secrete testosterone, androgens, estrogens, and inhibin. All of it works to control the rate of sperm production. Now, in that structure of the testes, the cells that exist, if this is one of my tubes, because we've got a cross section through it, cells that exist around the tubes, in between them, are called interstitial. Anytime you got something between two places, interstitial. And these are going to be my source of testosterone for the sex steroids in the testes. Once again, they are important because they are functioning for the development of the male reproductive system from the time of almost fertilization through the entire adult life of the male. Because male do produce sperm their entire life. So some of the other functions of other tissues and organs, stuff that we don't really associate with the endocrine system, our skin. The skin, though, very important. Any of you ever been told got a vitamin D deficiency? Okay? And then they're like, oh, go take some vitamin D. All right? Got to take some other stuff along with it to make sure it gets absorbed correctly. But how can you keep your vitamin D levels up naturally.
Go outside.
Go outside, and then there's another part to it. You got to make sure you're consuming products that are going to provide it to the body. With UV light, the liver and the kidneys, in the skin, a product called cholecalciferol can be converted to what we know as calcitriol, which will help with regulating calcium, meaning that we're going to have the absorption of it in our bodies with that vitamin D. So it's actually, when you look at the vitamin D, the function of it in the body, it's very much like a hormone. It has a very hormone-like action. In the liver, one of the things about the liver, the cells of the liver do not duplicate if they do not have to. Because once the liver reaches the size that it's going to be, it's just wanting to do its job. Because it is so busy. All right? I mean, that liver is extremely busy. We know of at least 5 hormones associated with the liver. Cholecalciferol, once again, calcium, because we need the liver and the kidneys to get the calcitriol so that we can get, well, it goes to calcidol, calcitriol for the cows. It's a long process. All right, trust me on that. Look at this one. Remember how I said the raw system, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, which is used for controlling what? We just talked about it.
Blood pressure.
Blood pressure, that is what? Too high or too low? Too low. Okay? This is where my liver comes into play. It secretes angiotensin. And then, with the kidneys, the lungs, and then the angiotensin 2, which was from part of my cortex of the medulla, of the adrenal gland, is used for the raw system. It's going to secrete erythropoietin. That's going to come back to us when we start talking about blood, because it's a hormone that stimulates red blood cell production, RBCs. It secretes the IGFs, insulin-like growth factors. The liver secretes IGF-1, because there's more than one IGF. But it secretes IGF-1. This one mediates the action of the growth hormone. So that's pretty important. Then secretes hepcidin, mainly because whenever you hear HEP, okay, hepatic, okay, HEP, HEPA, that's going to let you know it's the liver. All right, that's telling you, because they're termed hepatic cells. So hepcidin, this is my hormone of iron homeostasis. Now, when we start talking about the blood, looking at red blood cells, the function of iron, okay, that's going to become very important. So this is going to be the one that helps with homeostasis